I don't know if you have seen this viral video of one chap called James O'Brien, who works for LBC as a radio host. Now, if you know him and are his fan, there is a bad news for you. The chap has just declared that criticism of Israel amounts to anti Semitism. I'm not making it up. You have to watch his heated exchange with a caller who called into his show to expose the LBC's hypocrisy on Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza. It all started with the said caller reminding James O'Brien about the Western media's pathetic role in pushing Israeli propaganda and the treatment meted out to Sangeeta Maiska, who had been sacked by the LBC soon after she was seen fact-checking an Israeli government spokesperson for his lies.
What the Iranians, of course, have said is that this is a retaliatory strike after Israel struck its consulate in Syria. Now, we all know that the way diplomacy works is consulates and embassies are considered sovereign territory of the government that is concerned. What Israel did by taking that action against Iran was escalate what is already an incredibly fragile situation.
Sangeeta, that's an outrageous framing of the reality.
It's not an outrageous framing. I've just been speaking to somebody who is a diplomat to Iran from the UK government. That's not an outrageous framing of it. What Israel did was strike what is considered in diplomatic circles the sovereign territory of Iran, whether we like it or not. No. And there was undoubtedly going to be a blowback. So did Israel game out what was going to happen next?
Firstly, I'm not going to speak directly to that strike. What I can say definitively, and this is why it's outrageous, I can say definitively is that wasn't an embassy, it wasn't a consulate, it wasn't any type of diplomatic mission.
It's been widely reported as that.
Because that's what Iran says. Is that's what Iran says. So would you like to copy and paste?
Are you suggesting every single news organization in the world has got that wrong?
No, I'm suggesting that the Iranians have an interest to say that was a diplomatic mission when we know definitively it wasn't. Okay, because they then want to give you the response that you've just copied and pasted, with all due respect. So I can tell you that I can't speak directly to the strike, but I can say that definitively that was an Al-Quds military base being used by forces of the Iranian regime, and they were bent on Israel's destruction. They were working towards Israel's destruction. They were working actively with their proxy.
We all know that the Israeli government spokesperson in this video was simply being an Israeli here, i.e. lying through his teeth. Even the US dual national Anthony Blinken and his Zionist gang working in the State Department did not dispute the fact that the building bombed by Israeli terrorists in Damascus was an Iranian diplomatic mission. This is what had prompted Iran to launch a retaliatory attack. Iran was actually being cautious as it did not launch a full-blown retaliatory attack on Israel. If this was any other country with some self-respect, it would have taught Israel a lesson. But Iran chose to play a cautious game, which proved quite costly for the regime, as Israel was allowed to invade Iranian sovereignty, to bomb Tehran and kill Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh before decimating the complete leadership of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Sangeeta Maiska had disappeared from the scene soon after that interview. This prompted many to conclude that she was being punished for not allowing an Israeli propagandist to peddle fake news unchecked. This is what the caller referred to during his call into James O'Brien's show yesterday. Little did the caller realize that this James chap would lose his sanity completely by the mere mention of Sangeeta Maiska. Watch the clip.
What happened to Sangeeta, even at LBC?
No, that's just Rolex, mate. And I mean, you can say it because you've got free speech, but that's just crap.
Thank you.
All right. We all sit in. I'll tell you something, because it bores me rigid. This, and I can't believe that certain people have allowed this lie to be perpetuated. We sit in a room every 3 months. Every single person that works here, we sit in a room every 3 months. They show us graphs of how our program is performing, right? Everybody knows when someone's vulnerable. And it's not the graph of what audience you inherit when you come on air. It's a graph of how your audience falls or rises during the duration of your program. Every single person in this building sits in that room and watches a graph for every single program every 3 months. All right?
I don't want to get off topic.
No, you said it. You can't backtrack now, mate. You have decided. You have decided to believe something that isn't true.
Now, I have led big teams working on radio shows in the BBC. I know the importance of audience. We used to have quarterly figure called RAJAR, which is Radio Joint Audience Research. That's why I think James O'Brien or his bosses, if this is above his pay grade, should come out in the open to prove that the falling audience number was the only reason for Sangeeta Maiska's ouster. And they should give specific audience numbers of the show when she joined the LBC and when she left. On radio stations, breakfast, mid-morning, drive, and evening shows are usually the most listened to shows. They attract the most numbers. Sangeeta was presenting neither of these shows. The rest of them, and particularly on the weekend, never attract the same numbers. Also, is it a coincidence that the person who replaced Maiska is a known supporter of Israel? Talking about Israel, this James O'Brien chap took offense to the fact that the caller had linked Sangeeta Maiska's ouster to her grilling of an Israeli government spokesperson. Such was his hurt that he described it anti-Semitism. I'm not making it up. Even the caller was aghast as he asked how this could constitute anti-Semitism. Left speechless, James O'Brien took a leaf out of the Israeli propaganda playbook and said he was exercising his freedom of speech. I mean, really?
And the only person that can prove to you that it isn't true has decided to stay silent and allow people like you to believe slurs and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about her former colleagues. So
I didn't make an anti-Semitic slur or anything.
Yes, you are. You're claiming that someone has been censored or silenced when they haven't.
But that's not anti-Semitic. How's that anti-Semitic? That in itself is what's wrong with everything.
Okay, mate. I am setting the record straight on something, okay? And the idea that somebody would be silenced for being critical of Israel during a phone-in that is heavily critical of Israel is palpably absurd. You can dispute the fact that it's anti-Semitic. That's my opinion. And that is my freedom of speech that I am exercising, just as you are exercising yours. But if you choose to come on this program and tell lies about every single one of my colleagues, I will push back, okay? And that is what you are doing. I sympathize with you because the lies have been deliberately allowed to fester by somebody who can only answer for their own conduct.
No wonder this chap is now facing social media roasting. Honestly speaking, I saw a few videos in which this James O'Brien chap was seen holding his head in disgust on the Israeli atrocities in Gaza. That made me think that he was a nice guy. He stood on the right side of the history. But now I wonder if he was acting on those occasions or he is simply being thick here. I don't think he's so thick to not understand that criticism of Israel or exposing the Israeli lobby doesn't amount to anti-Semitism. He can shout as much as he wants, but this wouldn't change the perception of the LBC in the minds of news-consuming public because the last 16 months of Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza has exposed many media outlets, and the LBC is one of them. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.